Listen, if your plan is to be nice and hope the world rewards you, you're going to get fed to wolves with good manners. Survival today isn't about being loud. It's about being impossible to replace. If Niccolò Machiavelli were alive right now, he wouldn't be lip-syncing on TikTok or begging for brand deals. He'd be invisible in public and undeniable in private, the voice in a CEO's ear, the ghost in a board's decisions, the hand that writes the script everyone else believes they're improvising. In a culture addicted to visibility, he'd weaponize invisibility. Because anything they can see, they can target. And anything they can measure, they can manipulate. We're not chained by force anymore. We're governed by perception, by data, by the dread of being forgotten. If you don't know how to shape how you're seen, you're not playing the game. You're the prize in it. This isn't an invitation to be evil. It's an instruction manual for staying unbroken. So here are the first moves, psychological rules forged for a world where attention is a trap and silence carries weight. Rule 1. Let them underestimate you on purpose. In rooms full of people auditioning for respect, you're going to be the one who doesn't audition at all. Speak later, watch longer. Let them label you harmless, quiet, safe. That label is a gift. People reveal the most when they feel unwatched. Underestimation is your cloak. Precision is your blade. When the door opens, because it always opens for the non-threat, you don't rush. You place one clean move and the room recalibrates around you. Rule 2. Charm is a velvet syringe. Truth challenges. Charm disarms. Most people don't want reality, they want relief. So don't argue with egos. Don't wrestle for rightness. Make them feel seen, and their guard takes a nap. Echo a value here, mirror a preference there, and you'll be invited deeper than any debate could take you. Presence first, points later. The person who flatters accurately gets handed the keys, then decides where the car is going. Rule 3. Manufacture ambiguity. Predictability makes you programmable. If they can name you, they can frame you. Let your rhythm shift. Warm today, distant tomorrow. Concise this week, inscrutable next week. Not chaos calibration. You're stable in principle and fluid in presentation. Ambiguity creates attention. Attention creates influence. When they can't quite pin you down, they freeze just enough for you to move them. Rule 4. Control the display. Hide the mechanics. In the era of build in public, sabotage happens in public too. Post decoys. Share outcomes, not pipelines. A quote here, a milestone there, noise that looks like signal. Meanwhile, your real work happens where search bars and screenshots can't follow. Let them think you're slow. Let them think you're behind. Then arrive with results and no breadcrumbs. Rule 5. Build the perfect mask and crack it once. People forget perfection. They obsess over the fracture. Craft an exterior that's calm, competent, and composed. Then, with surgical timing, let a sliver of something darker flash, one unsmiling pause in a cascade of praise, one line that's sharper than it should be. Not theatrics texture. They won't chase the polished surface. They'll chase the shadow behind it. Rule 6. Speak less than feels comfortable. Words are doors into your motives. The more you explain, the cheaper your presence becomes. In negotiations and conflicts, drop a single line that carries weight, then stop. Let silence do the interrogation. People project their fears into quiet rooms and end up telling you everything to relieve their own tension. Your economy of speech becomes pressure they can't tolerate. Rule 7. Blur the line between ally and threat. Pick a side publicly and you inherit that side's enemies. Float. Praise a rival's good move. Toast. Wins you had no interest in. Smile with the wolves and the lambs. Then act when both are sleeping. Be the fox that spots the snare and the lion that makes the snare irrelevant. The point isn't to be lovable. It's to be unreadable until the second it matters. Rule 8. Make them comfortable before you move. The cleanest takeover is the one they walk into with a grin. Mirror their language. Borrow their tempo. Deflect with agreement. When safety blooms, vigilance dies. That's timing. And timing beats talent in every power game. If any of this is rubbing you the wrong way, good. That friction is the part of you still hoping merit alone wins. Keep your ethics. Machiavelli never demanded you lose them. But stop advertising them to people who shoplift boundaries. Start treating perception like terrain, silence like scaffolding, and timing like artillery. From here on, you won't need to shout to shift a room. You'll move once, and they'll spend a week explaining to themselves how a man they barely noticed ended up holding the levers. When you're ready, we'll go deeper. When people say speak your truth, they forget that every word is ammunition for someone else's weapon. Machiavelli knew that silence is not weakness, it's a filter. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. So when you're ignored, interrupted, or misunderstood, don't flinch. Don't correct them. Smile. Let them talk. Because every sentence they spend defining you is one less they can use defending themselves later. Silence builds tension. It makes others over-explain, reveal, and expose. In a noisy room, the man who listens longest becomes the one everyone fears, not because he's dangerous yet, but because no one knows when he'll be. The loud man gives away his rhythm. The quiet man rewrites it. That's Rule 9. Turn stillness into signal. When you go quiet, the world fills the gap for you. They start asking questions, inventing motives, projecting their insecurities onto your silence. Let them. You become a mirror so powerful they can't look away. Most people crumble trying to explain themselves. You'll rise by letting mystery do your marketing. Rule 10. Weaponize unpredictability. Predictability is comfort, and comfort is death to power. Once they know how you'll react, they can script around you. So forgive today, go cold tomorrow. Laugh in one meeting, turn stoic in the next. Not chaos-controlled volatility. You're not being emotional, you're being unreadable. When they can't map your next move, they don't move at all. Their fear of misstepping becomes your leash. Rule 11. Be clear in values, but fluid in form. Your ethics, your core, stay stable. But your delivery, your tone, timing, rhythm stays adaptive. Water doesn't argue with the shape of the cup. It fills it. That's how influence survives. You don't need to dominate anyone. Just make them uncertain whether they ever really understood you. Now, the most misunderstood rule of all. Ambiguity is not confusion. It's control. When people can label you, they think they own you. When they can't, they freeze. And frozen minds are easy to move. Don't be the open book. Be the manuscript in a locked drawer that everyone's dying to read. You don't need to hide everything, just enough to make interpretation a privilege. Rule 12. Never show the real blueprint. People love to track your progress, not because they support you, but because they want to predict you. The moment they can map your routine, they start planning against it. So reveal decoys. Share just enough to feed curiosity, but never clarity. Post results, not process. Announce goals that don't exist to hide the ones that do. A shadow plan executed in daylight always fails. A silent plan executed in darkness always wins. Machiavelli didn't want to be understood. He wanted to be unavoidable. He'd let you feel close enough to think you knew him, but only close enough to miscalculate. He'd walk into a negotiation, drop one perfectly phrased line, then stop. Stillness. No defense, no elaboration. Just quiet. And the silence would grow so heavy that the other side would start confessing their own strategy, just to break it. That's the essence of Rule 13. Silence creates pressure. When you refuse to fill the air, they panic. They interpret. They overthink. And in that overthinking, they give away leverage you didn't even have to ask for. Most people speak to prove intelligence. The powerful speak to measure temperature. You let others drown in their own words while you collect their data in peace. Rule 14. Fear is not built through noise, it's built through uncertainty. Real fear isn't what you say you'll do. It's what they think you might do. Cancel a meeting, stop replying, walk away without explanation. Then let their imagination run wild. Their mind will turn into a battlefield you don't even have to step on. Every overreaction becomes a performance directed by your absence. Weak men chase revenge instantly. Strong men wait. Machiavelli waited. He didn't lash out. He let the insult sit. He smiled while his enemies celebrated. Because patience sharpens silence into a blade they never see coming. When revenge finally arrives, it doesn't look like punishment. It looks like fate. Ask yourself, who still believes they won against you just because you didn't react? That's your hidden advantage. They forgot you were watching. They built comfort while you built strategy. When the ground shifts, they'll call it betrayal. You'll call it Tuesday. Rule 15. Discipline your silence. Don't use it as punishment. Use it as precision. Go quiet not to sulk, but to study. The more they reveal, the less you need to. Silence, when chosen with purpose, becomes louder than any speech. It creates gravity. It draws attention without demand. The world trains you to prove, explain, defend. But Machiavelli would tell you this: every time you explain yourself, you sell yourself. Stop clarifying your worth. Let your restraint speak for you. Let your timing define you. When your silence becomes heavier than their noise, that's when you've stepped out of survival and into strategy. Because power, real power, isn't declared. It's felt. And when you master this kind of silence, people won't even realize they're adjusting themselves around your stillness. They'll just feel it and obey it. Rule 16. Never pick a side too early. Machiavelli mastered the art of the middle ground, that invisible space where both sides believe you belong to them. He wasn't loyal to people, he was loyal to timing. He'd agree with your enemies, nod to your allies, and protect both until one destroyed the other. Clarity creates resistance, neutrality creates comfort, and comfort lowers defenses. You don't have to declare allegiance. You just have to make everyone think you're on their side until the right moment decides who actually wins. That's how the quietest man in the room ends up writing both sides of the war. Rule 17. Turn generosity into gravity. Most people give to be liked. The powerful give to own. Machiavelli understood that every favor is a string, invisible at first, but impossible to untie. A small act of help. A well-timed gesture, a piece of advice that saves someone time or reputation, all tiny debts that grow in silence. He never demanded repayment. He just let guilt ferment. You'll try to repay someone like that, not because they ask, but because you need to feel balanced. That's how control begins, with your own discomfort. Ask yourself, who are you still saying yes to, just because they once helped you? That's not loyalty. That's leverage disguised as gratitude. Rule 18. Make them cross the line first. Machiavelli never begged for loyalty. He created complicity. One whisper, one question, one shared secret. Tell me what they said, just between us. And suddenly, the other person steps into the gray zone willingly. Once they've crossed that line, they'll defend you not because they love you, but because protecting you means protecting themselves. You don't need contracts when people feel guilty. Guilt binds deeper than signatures. When they've sinned for you, they'll stand beside you forever, not out of loyalty, but self-preservation. That's what Machiavelli called strategic intimacy. Rule 19. Break alliances from within. Power doesn't always strike from the outside. It seeps in like a whisper. You don't attack groups, you question them. Subtlety beats accusation every time. Are you sure she's loyal? You trust him with that? I heard something, probably nothing. You plant a seed, then walk away. Doubt doesn't need proof, it just needs space. Once that seed grows, they'll water it themselves with suspicion. Trust rots quietly until one day, everything looks fine, but nothing holds. Machiavelli didn't destroy unity. He let it decay in silence. Rule 20. Use mirrors, not hammers. Most people resist force. No one resists recognition. When you name someone's hidden insecurities softly, without judgment, you become the only person they believe truly sees them. You've learned to trust yourself impressive, especially for someone who used to be overlooked. It sounds like a compliment. It's not. It's a fingerprint. You've touched something they didn't know was visible. That kind of validation is a drug. They'll follow you anywhere to feel seen again. Machiavelli didn't crush egos. He cradled them until they couldn't breathe without his approval. Rule 21. Let others do the work of destruction for you. He never dirtied his hands. He simply created tension and waited for others to act. Suggestion, not instruction. Strange how they always interrupt you. Imagine what you could do without them. Then he'd leave. And when conflict erupted, he looked like the calm one, the voice of reason, even though he'd designed the storm. That's the art of unseen control. You don't swing the sword, you build the stage where others cut each other down. And when the dust settles, you're clean, you're admired, you're essential. Machiavelli understood something few do today. True influence doesn't require noise, outrage, or dominance. It requires design. Now let's talk about presence, the quiet kind that turns absence into obsession. He knew that disappearance was power. When you walk away at the right moment, you create a vacuum. People don't crave you. They crave what you made them feel when you were around. Absence rewrites memory. It turns curiosity into hunger. He'd give people stability, understanding, attention, then step back without warning. Not out of cruelty, but control. Because the second they feel your silence, they begin to chase it. That's not manipulation. That's gravity. You don't force orbit. You create it. Have you noticed how some people keep talking about you even when you've moved on? They're not haunted by what you did. They're haunted by what you withdrew. So ask yourself, who still trembles when they remember your silence? Who still builds their actions around the ghost of your approval? That's power. Not domination, not fame, but psychological reach. The moment you understand this, you stop competing for attention. You stop proving. You stop begging to be understood. You start mastering the invisible game, because power isn't about being seen. It's about being felt, even when you're gone. Machiavelli once wrote that the most dangerous man isn't the one who strikes, it's the one who makes everyone else swing for him. He didn't destroy threats. He orchestrated their self-destruction. He didn't command people directly. He built pressure so subtle that they moved exactly as he wanted, without realizing why. Rule 22. Let tension do your work. You don't have to light fires, just leave matches near gasoline and walk away. Let insecurity and ego ignite themselves. When others start unraveling, stay calm, measured, almost sympathetic. Because while they burn, you'll look like the one holding the water. Control isn't about chaos, it's about contrast. You become the quiet constant while everything else collapses. In every room, the one who says the least sees the most. Silence isn't passive, it's active restraint. People talk themselves into corners just to escape it. They fill the quiet with confessions, with plans they should have hidden, with weakness disguised as honesty. All you have to do is wait. Rule 23. Let others expose themselves. Ask a single question, then stop. No reaction, no nod, no follow-up. Let them squirm in the stillness until they spill everything you needed. Most people don't realize this. Silence makes imagination louder than truth. They will reveal themselves just to stop wondering what you're thinking. That's when information flows freely and power shifts quietly. Rule 24. Be the variable, not the constant. Predictability gives people comfort. Comfort gives them strategy. Once they can forecast your moves, they can build traps. So, break rhythm. Forgive what they expect you to punish. Go cold on what they expect you to pursue. Don't be chaotic. Be unreadable. Predictability makes you visible. Unpredictability makes you untouchable. Machiavelli's genius wasn't just manipulation, it was psychological engineering. He created environments where others limited themselves. Fear wasn't something he inflicted. It was something he inspired by not reacting. The human mind hates ambiguity. When you provide none, people start policing their own behavior just to avoid crossing you. Rule 25. Let their imagination punish them. You don't need to threaten anyone. You don't need revenge speeches or warnings. Just withdraw your attention. Cancel a meeting. Go silent for a week. You'll watch their confidence disintegrate under the weight of their own overthinking. The mind always exaggerates what it can't define. Let fear write the script while you stay perfectly still. Rule 26. Make your absence heavier than your presence. When you disappear, the strong stay calm. The weak spiral. And the smartest ones? They start adjusting themselves as if you're still there. They double-check their tone, their words, their timing. You've become their inner voice, the unspoken standard. That's legacy without announcement. That's power without motion. Machiavelli never wanted to dominate through intimidation. He wanted to dominate through indispensability. He'd make himself so essential to how things worked, so integrated into the rhythm of others' decisions, that removing him would mean breaking the whole system. Rule 27. Become the system. Don't just lead design. Build methods so efficient that even your enemies have to use them. When they copy your process, they become trapped in your architecture. You're no longer competing. You're dictating from beneath the foundation. And when they try to replace you, they realize they can't, because to remove you, they'd have to destroy everything they rely on. That's the highest form of control. Not authority, not popularity. Structure. You're no longer a person. They're living inside your logic. Rule 28. Make people dependent on your way of doing things. Solve problems no one else can solve. Bring calm where others bring noise. Say what breaks their loop of confusion. And when they lean on you, step back, not in anger, not in distance, just enough to make them feel the void. They'll start chasing it. They'll crave your presence not because you're charming, but because you made their chaos make sense. That's ownership without paperwork. Rule 29. Turn absence into obsession. Don't argue, don't announce, don't explain. Just withdraw. Let your silence echo louder than words ever could. Absence turns curiosity into craving, craving into attachment. The human mind can't stand an unfinished story. So you leave mid-sentence, and they spend months trying to write your ending for you. That's control disguised as curiosity. Machiavelli knew, when you walk away, don't slam the door. Leave it slightly open. They'll stare at that gap forever, wondering if you'll come back, wondering what they did wrong, wondering how to get your attention again. That's when they stop being your equal and start being your echo. He didn't want fans, he didn't want followers, he wanted echoes. People repeating his methods without knowing where they came from. That's immortality, the kind you don't have to ask for. Rule 30. Become unspeakable, not famous, not trending. Unspeakable. The kind of presence people reference in half sentences. You know who I mean. That's when you've gone beyond influence into myth. No one dares say your name, because saying it acknowledges how deep your shadow still reaches. Power doesn't want applause. It wants silence when your name comes up. That's not fear. That's respect refined through mystery. When you reach that level, you don't chase visibility. You haunt it. You're the example whispered about in boardrooms, the warning told in training sessions, the unseen hand others adjust their tone around. That's not control, it's consequence. The room shifts even after you've left it. People measure themselves against a standard you no longer enforce. You've become not a man, but a method, an atmosphere. Rule 31. Leave a shadow, not a signature. Signatures fade. Shadows move. When your influence survives without credit, you've crossed from temporary to timeless. Now pause. You've heard enough rules to fill a book, but here's the truth Machiavelli would whisper if he stood beside you. Real power doesn't perform. It observes, it builds, it waits, and when it moves, it doesn't announce itself. It simply changes the weather. If you're still here, you've already changed. That calm feeling creeping in, it isn't fear. It's transformation. The version of you that chased approval is dissolving. You no longer want to be understood. You want to be effective. This is the final stage of power, when silence becomes instinct and control feels like peace. Machiavelli knew that once you stop needing to be seen, you become impossible to measure. And when people can't measure you, they can't manage you. That's when you shift from being part of the game to quietly designing it. Rule 32. Observe more, reveal less. The world rewards performers, not thinkers. But performance drains power. Observation multiplies it. Everyone else is busy showing their worth. You collect information. You study patterns, motives, weaknesses. You don't need to be loud when you already know how everyone in the room operates. The observer always outlasts the actor. Rule 33. Stay detached, but never distant. Emotion blurs judgment. Detachment refines it. You still feel, but you don't react. You let others burn energy defending themselves while you conserve yours for the decisive strike. Calm doesn't mean indifferent, it means unreadable. When you're emotionally still, you become a mirror, and mirrors make people reveal who they are. Rule 34. Make time your ally. Impatient men expose themselves. Machiavelli never rushed conflict or revenge. He waited for the exact moment when his enemies felt safest. That's when precision cuts deepest. In a world addicted to instant reactions, your restraint becomes terrifying. Every delay builds tension. Every pause builds power. You don't chase timing. You create it. Rule 35. Speak only when silence can't. Silence makes words expensive. The fewer you spend, the higher their value. When you finally speak, people listen, not because you shout, but because silence made your voice rare. Never argue, never over-explain. The less you say, the more they imagine. Let imagination do the heavy lifting. Rule 36. Design systems, not followers. Machiavelli didn't want fans, he wanted frameworks. If your influence ends when you walk away, it wasn't power. True power is invisible. It functions without you. Teach methods, create structures, embed logic into how others think. Then, disappear. When your system continues to run, you've transcended leadership. You've become infrastructure. Rule 37. Let people underestimate you. Underestimation is armor. When they think you're simple, you can move freely. When they believe you're harmless, you can watch without suspicion. Their arrogance becomes your invisibility cloak. Let them laugh. Let them speak over you. When they stop watching, that's when you strike. Quietly, surgically, without warning. Rule 38. Disappear before they expect it. Power grows in absence. When you leave at your peak, your silence becomes echo. People will replay your last words. Search for meaning in your distance. Crave your presence just to feel equilibrium again. You don't need to prove your value. Withdrawal does it for you. When they start to miss your silence, you've already won. Rule 39. Never announce revenge. If they can predict your retaliation, they can prepare for it. The strongest revenge is confusion, when they can't trace how or when it came. You don't warn, you don't posture. You let them believe they got away with it. Then one day, their comfort collapses under its own weight. That's not cruelty, that's gravity. Rule 40. Make calmness your disguise. A still face terrifies people. It makes them overthink. They'll invent motives, search for emotions, and reveal their own fears trying to decode yours. Stillness isn't weakness, it's pressure without motion. When everyone else performs, your composure becomes dominance. You're no longer chasing validation. You're building inevitability. You're no longer proving you deserve power. You're showing you are power. When you stop reacting, you force the world to adjust around you. Remember this: the strongest presence is the one that doesn't need attention to exist. You don't announce what's coming. You let silence move ahead of you like a storm no one can see, only feel. From now on, you operate differently. Speak less. Watch more. Reveal nothing until it's irreversible. Don't try to be memorable. Become unforgettable by absence. Power doesn't roar. It rearranges. It doesn't need spotlight. It casts shadows. The moment people start measuring themselves by your silence, you've become what Machiavelli admired most, the ghost that rules the living.